You are welcome. I would like to address the audience right away. You have very intelligent people here. Please don't ask me difficult questions.
Mr. President, thank you. Thank you. They won't forgive me if I don't say a few words. Look, we appreciate everything and remember everything, day in and day out. When you came in March 2000, after the elections, made decisions on the nuclear weapons complex, on energy, gave orders to enterprises, imposed subsidies on the most important workers. I can't help but emphasize the decision to create a state corporation. Our export is a separate topic. You have created not just a support system, Mr. President, but you are personally the main representative of the Rosatom international negotiations. I have seen this more than once, and you have introduced nuclear policy as a priority in our foreign policy. Thank you very much. And thank you for encouraging us with your orders. We have something that didn't even exist in the great Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Machinery, the Northern Sea Route, material science, nuclear medicine, and much more have made us stronger in recent years. And we hope they will make our country even stronger. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me move on to the questions. I can imagine that you never need any moderators or mediators in a conversation with the audience. Just let me introduce the first participant of our discussion, the representative of the peaceful nuclear industry, Vladimir Kuryakov. He works at the Leningrad plant, and despite his young age, he is already building the fourth plant. He is responsible for supplying equipment for the construction of new nuclear power plants. Please, Volodya.
Mr. President, good afternoon. I am a little nervous. It is not every day that I have the honor to see the head of state and have the opportunity to ask him direct questions.
We are fellow countrymen, so it is easier for us.
I started my work at the Leningrad nuclear power plant practically from a student bench. I started as an economist, and now, as Alexei Evgenyevich said, I am the deputy head of the department. In 2007, when all this happened, it all began with your order to start the construction of the Leningrad nuclear power plant. Thank you very much for that, too. At the moment, we have 35 units of 11 nuclear power plants in Rosatom, and about 20% of the country's energy balance. But according to the approved general scheme, in 2042, we will have to build 38 nuclear power plants. This will allow us to meet your requirements for 25% of the country's energy balance. The task is ambitious and inspiring for our team because we appreciate your attention to our industry. Alexei Evgenyevich has already said this. But there are some aspects, at least in my opinion, that in the implementation of large investment projects, such as the construction of a nuclear power plant, I will say 3 of them. The first is political will, which we have thanks to your support. The second is money. I thought I would ask this question, but I will not. Because you have repeatedly spoken on television about the refinancing rate. We look forward to it going down, of course. We understand everything. And the third aspect, without which we can't go anywhere, is definitely the personnel, without whom we can't go anywhere. But now we have a shortage of personnel, including engineering and construction personnel. There is a shortage of construction sites on the Leningrad 3rd and 4th blocks. maybe there is an opportunity to consider the option of a state order for specialized universities in order to increase the number of budget places for those specialties that our nuclear industry needs. I do not express my deepest respect to you, and I think that I am also present for your visible and invisible support. But without you, I think we would not have coped.
There is no place for light. As for the personnel, this is one of the most important areas in all sectors of the people's economy. And in the nuclear industry, there are probably no exceptions. The same thing happens. Although we need to prepare, of course, personnel almost from kindergarten, from school. We need an early professional orientation. This is exactly what we are doing. Maybe not as effectively as we would like, but nevertheless, this efficiency has been increasing recently. And the proof of this is that this year, when the EG was handed over, a significant number of school children chose physics, mathematics, chemistry, and biology as their main subjects. And in general, the interest in engineering professions is increasing. I have just met with the Minister of Science and Education. Colleagues have also said that the number of people enrolling in engineering professions, and by the way, in pedagogical professions, has increased significantly recently. This is also proof that the result of our work is to acquire such tangible parameters. But of course, this is not enough. We will continue to work. But it is strange that there are not enough builders. I understand when narrow specialists are invested.
There is a shortage of builders. Maybe there are not only control figures for admissions, the so-called state assignment for universities, but also some systemic solutions related to increasing the attractiveness of builders, designers. This will be a very large deficit, as far as we understand, not only in nuclear construction, but also in the coming years.
Let's talk separately about what the nuclear industry needs. As for special training, there is a lot of work to be done here. Colleagues have just told you that a whole center has been established in Obninsk. Moreover, it is an international center where both our students and foreign students are being trained. There are more than 90 support universities.
We have more than 50 universities in Russia and several dozen abroad.
These are all people who come to the nuclear industry and will work there. But we probably need to return to this again and again. You know, I have already talked about this. Of course, we need to popularize engineering, which is applicable to your field of work in the nuclear industry. I think there is nothing more interesting than what you do. I say this without any exaggeration, but this is a special work related to the understanding of what Einstein thought about, how the world works. He said this when you asked why he came to this. I was interested to know how the world works and so on. This is what you do. But what can be more interesting? What can be more exciting than this kind of activity? It is necessary to be able to apply this beautifully to interest young people, so-called boys and girls, from school. We are now developing a whole system of work with gifted children at school. And you, of course, must first of all have gifted people, because it requires special intellectual qualities. In general professions, such as construction, very noble industries, if Russia has some special tasks, special requirements, let's think, we can probably talk. I do not want to indulge in what is missing in the construction sector and what is being filled there, or what is being filled with jobs.
We have an idea. We will bring it to you. Thank you very much. Vladimir Vladimirovich, of course, there were a lot of questions from the international dimension. First of all, it concerns us. Thanks to your support, we are noticeable players in the global market, but we are also nuclear leaders. We have a corresponding structure, one might say a kind of Russian nuclear trade, in many countries, on all continents. It works. And now, Yegor Kwitkovsky, a young man, has almost reached the deputy head of the main nuclear trade. Come on, Yegor, ask your questions, please.
Thank you very much for the presentation. After such words, I am not a boring question. I should only ask boldly. Vladimir Vladimirovich, I am not a classic nuclear expert. I graduated from the Higher School of Economics and decided to break the stereotype that only technical professions are involved in nuclear power plants. I have been working in the industry for 15 years, and I promote Russian nuclear technologies abroad. Indeed, you correctly noted that we are building abroad today. We are building 22 units today, 41 units abroad in our portfolio. These are very serious numbers. We are following them. We are implementing them. Of course, objectively, after 2022, we have refocused. We began to engage very actively in friendly countries, countries of the Global South, ASEAN, BRICS. In our understanding, it is these countries that give such a colossal leap in terms of energy consumption in the world. There we see prospects. At the same time, we do not leave and do not leave the Western markets, on which we used to work, we work now. This requires a lot of effort. It is difficult. They are trying to push us out of these markets. We see the policy that is imposed on our partners. They are objectively threatening to work with us. Nevertheless, we continue. We continue to fight for these markets. We do not retreat. And, of course, I cannot help but ask the question of how we can further build a correct relationship with the Western world. We, of course, all nuclear companies, followed the course of your negotiations with Donald Trump. This is important to us, especially in the international segment. Of course, we and I, personally, we really want to know, what do you think, Vladimir Vladimirovich? Should we continue to fight for Western clients? Or should we wait? Wait until common sense prevails over some political games, and still we will continue to work constructively with our partners. And in general, where will the relations with the United States end? I think that all those present in this hall are very interested in this question. Will we be able to build a constructive, pragmatic cooperation with Western partners?
Thank you. Sit down, please. You said that after the beginning of the World Trade Organization, we will build more relations with our partners in friendly countries. We used to work there, to be honest. What did we lose from the projects, from the so-called unfriendly countries? By the way, we do not have unfriendly countries, we have unfriendly elites in some countries. And with the peoples of these countries, I assure you, there is propaganda, of course, working, brainwashing, and they say that we started a war. And they forget that they themselves started the war in 2014, when they began to use tanks and aircraft against the peaceful population of Donbass. That's when the war started, and we are doing everything to stop it. But I am not talking about this now, but about the fact that where did we have the main cooperation? With friendly countries, where were our main orders? in the People's Republic of China, in India, in Bangladesh. Then a project appeared in Turkey, despite the beginning of the World Trade Organization. And this, by the way, is NATO. What did we lose from what we had? Only Finland. We even continue in Hungary, and the country of NATO and the country of the European Union. We continue to work there. The first, the second. What we used to do in those countries that you called unfriendly, we continue to do there. We supply nuclear fuel. We still do. In decent volumes. We provide services. We provide in almost the same volumes. Some new things are emerging, especially in the field of nuclear medicine and other related areas. This is how it was. This is how it is. Yes, some things really do harm us, where cooperation ceases, especially in science. But the work with scientists continues. Look at us. I came to Gachina. You know, the center, right? We have work there. Specialists from European countries work there. And nothing is normal. These specialists from the countries with which we had different relations at different stages in history, they always worked with us, even when a nuclear bomb was created. We know this well. I will not go into details now, but many specialists who worked in Los Alamos in the United States, they cooperated with Russia at the same time. And they were not trivial spies in the literal sense of the word. They were not spies at all. They were just smart people. And they understood that in order to keep humanity away from the gin they release from the bottle, they had to create a balance. And they did it, helping our scientists to work. Our scientists would have done it without this support, but they did it consciously. German specialists, American specialists, all of them. And this community of smart people was never destroyed, and it will never be destroyed. Science, as well as sports, as well as art, they are designed to unite people. It has always been this way, I am 100% sure, and it will always be this way. And no one will be able to destroy this scientific community. As for purely pragmatic issues related to business, we have enough orders. We are number one in the world today. Rosatom is the absolute leader in nuclear energy, in world nuclear energy. No company in the world builds so many facilities at all, and so many facilities abroad. I have just said, speaking from the podium, that this speaks about the quality of Rosatom's projects. It speaks about their safety. It speaks about their environmental quality. And there is another very important point. We do not hook our partners to build something and then create a market for them, and we constantly keep this market to ourselves. We are creating an industry. We are preparing personnel. We are creating opportunities for the production of equipment. We are localizing it. You know, the specialists of our partner countries understand this. They appreciate it very much. And this is why Rosatom's leadership is able to build such kind, friendly, long-term relations. I am sure it will be so. And those who somehow leave the scene of our interaction as a result of political pressure, I am sure they will return. And I repeat, many of them are still working, and many of them will return. As for our relations with the United States, they are at an extremely low level after World War II. I've already spoken about this many times. Well, with the arrival of President Trump, I think that such a light at the end of the tunnel was still shining. And now we had a very good, substantive and frank meeting in Alaska. The contacts continue at the level of our ministries, departments, companies. I very much hope that the first steps that have been taken are just the beginning of a full-scale restoration of our relations. Well, it does not depend on us. It depends on our Western partners, first of all, in the broad sense of the word, because the United States is also associated with certain commitments within the framework of various unions, including the North Atlantic Bloc. Therefore, the next steps depend on the leadership of the United States. But I am sure that the leadership qualities of the current president, President Trump, are a good guarantee that relations will be restored. And I hope that the pace of our joint work on this site will be maintained.
Thank you very much. In the international sphere, not only business and commercial projects are very important, but also humanitarian cooperation is very important. We are actively engaged in this, including within the framework of the Academy. Alexander Klormishin, the director of such a center, would also like to ask the corresponding question.
Vladimir Vladimirovich, I graduated from Moscow State University, and at the student bench, I was very interested in the BRICS, Youth and Energy Union. And in almost 10 years of work and 7 youth energy summits, we managed to build a whole dimension of youth energy cooperation between the BRICS countries. It is important to note here that young foreigners see a global technological and energy leader in Russia. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, because it was from the Russian presidency in the 1920s that the countries of the Union supported youth energy cooperation, and still support it. This is great support for the whole big team. And all this experience fills my current work at Rosatom. I am engaged in promoting Russian nuclear technologies and energy among the audience of young foreigners and young leaders. We assure you that we are working and fighting for foreign personnel. For example, the Omninsk Tech project is how we unite around Rosatom young and talented allies of the Russian nuclear industry. In September, as part of the Global Nuclear Summit, we will welcome 100 of the world's best young representatives of the nuclear industry from about 40 countries. And we plan to discuss global challenges on the horizon in 2050. Vladimir Vladimirovich, I have a question. What challenges would you describe as the most acute? What challenges should we draw the attention of young people? And if possible, what would you recommend to us, to the young guys who are working with young foreign leaders today? BRICS youth initiatives, global energy trends.
I think you can recommend anything and anyone to yourself. As for the challenges, you know, the essence of the challenges does not change from century to century. For a country like ours, the most important thing is the ability to maintain its sovereignty. There are countries that exist without sovereignty. Today's Western Europe is practically devoid of such sovereignty. There are many other countries that feel normal. Russia cannot cease to exist in its current form without the loss of sovereignty. This is absolutely true. And in order to ensure our sovereignty, guarantee existence and development, we need to overcome the challenges posed by time. At one time, we were talking about technological breakthrough in the Soviet Union. It was connected with 2 projects, in fact, nuclear and missile. And there was a huge cooperation in the Soviet Union. Science emerged in many areas. And we provided a nuclear shield, a missile shield. And under the cover of this shield, the whole country, economy, social sphere is developing. The country exists, lives and looks to the future. But what are the challenges today? Artificial intelligence? Just imagine, new technologies are emerging on the basis of artificial intelligence. Genetics. You know better than I do about other areas that will depend not only on economic efficiency, and without economic efficiency, it is impossible to develop neither defense nor science. Nothing. But this is all interconnected. Economic efficiency will depend on this, which means the defense capability of the country. This is biology in the broad sense. This is what we should focus all our attention and efforts on. Concentrate administrative resources, financial resources. Education should be focused on this. And these are the challenges that we face. You know, I do not want to return to the same point all the time. But the most painful thing for us is everything that happens on the battlefront. I have just spoken to your employees, Rosatom employees, who took part in the hostilities and fought heroically. Some of them were seriously wounded. What I want to say is that every month, without exaggeration, and for half a year for sure, the conditions and ways of conducting the armed struggle change. If you only lag behind for a few weeks, the losses sharply increase, or the dynamics of progress on the battlefront declines. A few months is enough, and that's it. Now, I will not talk about the importance of various weapons, what is effective, when and how it was used, armored vehicles, artillery, then drones, unmanned aircraft, unmanned boats, and so on. But every day something happens. Effectiveness is one thing today. We use the means. Once it falls, why? Because the other side understood what we were doing. Within a few weeks, it made the appropriate technological decisions. The effectiveness of the use of very modern types of weapons is sharply decreasing. We have people who are engaged in this. They think they have made the right decisions. Effectiveness is growing again, up to 80–85%. This happens every day, you see. We all have to live in the intellectual environment of science and education. I will not say anything new. I will say that everyone who feels comfortable in this environment should adjust to the fact that you need to study all the time, every day. These are all the challenges we face and that we live and will live with. We need to understand and realize this. It is also very important to realize that we can overcome all these challenges, and we will do it.
Mr. President, let me return to our national agenda. Just a day ago, we had a solemn event for the 80th anniversary, and we awarded the certificate of the captain of the nuclear icebreaker to Marina Starovoytova, our employee. This became the world news of the day. For the first time in history, a woman became the captain of a nuclear icebreaker. Here are the girls from the nuclear fleet who have a few steps to go. In particular, Nina Vadovin. She is the second assistant to the captain, so exactly 2 steps to this high rank. Nina, please ask your question.
Yes, thank you very much. After all, the nuclear icebreaker breaks not only ice, it also breaks stereotypes. I am from a descendant of a family of sailors. My grandfather, and mother worked in the sea. Now, my brother and I continue the naval dynasty, and I am very proud that I work on the only nuclear icebreaker fleet in the world. I have a question about global logistics. You made a series of decisions. You appointed Rosatom as the operator of the North Sea route to provide shipping and the construction of the Arctic infrastructure. Also, Rosatom was handed over to the oldest shipping company in the country, FESCO, which has experience in shipping in the Arctic zone. Also, in March 2025, you instructed the government, together with Rosatom, to develop a new route, the Trans-Arctic Transport Corridor. Of course, we understand the scale and capacity of this task. It inspires us all, especially the young people who come and do this, including girls like us, who also come there. For 6 years, I have been helping to develop the North Sea route. I would like to hear, Mr. President, what does the North Sea route mean to you?
It means a lot to our country. The Soviet Union and Russia have been developing for a long time. Since what year, Mr. President?
We have been developing since 2018. No. When did the Soviet Union start talking about this? The Soviet Union started? Well, in general, since the first days of the Soviet Union, Arctic expeditions have already been working.
Yes, that's right, of course. But the North Sea route did not sound like that then. They were simply studying the applied meaning. Maybe it didn't matter then, this study. But then they were already talking about what and how to move from Arkhangelsk, from Murmansk to our eastern borders. Last year, 38 million tons were transported. Almost 9. 38 and 7. No, 37 and 8. Almost 38 million tons. That is a multiple increase. And due to climate change, as you know, everyone is already talking about it, there is a reason to believe, let's put it this way, that the volume of transportation may increase sharply and will increase due to increased navigation. But even if this does not happen, and we will have such an icebreaker fleet that we are planning, we have 8 nuclear icebreakers. There is no such fleet in the world, not a single country. And we are also planning in the near future, I think, 4 we are planning. In my opinion, now, along with the leader, there are 4. He is already throwing another fishing rod. Well, okay. In any case, they are needed. This is definitely obvious. If we have such a fleet, it will definitely be preserved. We still have 35 diesel icebreakers, in my opinion. No one has such a powerful fleet. And the most acceptable route is either in our territorial waters or in our special economic zone. These are our competitive advantages. And of course, it would be stupid not to develop this route, since many countries of the world are interested in using it. It is clear that the time it takes to transport cargo from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean and to the entire Asia-Pacific region, which is developing at an unprecedented pace for the Western community. And of course, we will do it without any doubt. Among other things, it should be understood there is no secret here that the defense capabilities of the country, Russia, are also largely associated with the research and use of these northern latitudes. What is the secret here? There is nothing to hide. Our strategic nuclear submarines go as far as the Arctic Ocean and lose their radars. This is our military advantage. Research, including in this zone, is extremely important for us. And finally, in addition to transport logistics and defense capabilities, there is a third thing. There are huge world reserves of mineral resources in the Arctic zone, and we have already started working there. We have several companies, including Novatech, one of our major companies, which works in the natural gas incineration sector. Moreover, this work is carried out in cooperation with many partners, both European and Asian. By the way, we are discussing the possibility of working together with American partners in this area, and not only in our Arctic zone, but also in Alaska. At the same time, no one has the technology that we have today, except for us. This is of interest to our partners, including the United States. This Arctic zone, the Northern Sea Route and your work there have great prospects and are developing at a very good pace. I wish you success. Who are you working with there? The second deputy captain. This is crazy. I thought the girl was studying at school, but she is the second deputy captain. I wish you success.
Thank you very much. We know that your program in Sarov will not end with this event, and there will definitely be more events in Moscow. Mr. President, can I ask one more question or a couple more?
3, okay?
Then a question for the youngest participant. He is half a student. His last name is Kuznetsov. His name is Vladimir Vladimirovich. He is the leader of the USSR, a student community of Rosatom. But he is already an employee of the state corporation. He was chosen alternatively for the big conference.
I am now a student at the Moscow Institute of Energy, and I am already working at AON Kayet, an enterprise of the nuclear arms complex. 2 years ago, Alexei Evgenievich proposed to create the Soviet students of Rosatom. During this time, we have grown into a whole community. At the moment, students from all over the country are joining our community. Recently, we had a very large congress in Moscow, where we all together, with our whole friendly team, dreamed of the future of our students. The guys dream of revealing their talents and finding the very thing in which they will truly live. I also have my dreams. First, of course, to be useful to my homeland. And the second is to create a big, strong family. Vladimir Vladimirovich, I think it will be interesting for many people to find out. Tell me, please, what do you dream of?
That you will succeed in everything. This is my job, my goal.
We cannot help but return to the family of nuclear scientists, the Kursk region, the city of Rosatom, the Kursk station. I want to give the floor to the descendant of one of the heads of the Kursk nuclear power plant, Igor Petrov.
Thank you, Vladimir Vladimirovich. Good afternoon. I am a descendant of the energy industry, a descendant of nuclear scientists. My grandfather worked at the Kostroma NPP. My father works in the nuclear industry. My younger brother works at the nuclear power plant. I, myself, immediately came to work at the nuclear power plant after I graduated from Moscow Engineering and Physics. Now my son is growing up. He is 11 years old. I ask him, I say, "Who do you want to work for?" And he says, "I want to work at the nuclear power plant like my grandfather and father." Well, time will tell, but let's say there are all the chances the family dynasty will continue. Vladimir Vladimirovich, you have recently been in Kurchatov, in the Kursk region. You know that we are actively building the first power unit of the Kursk NPP.
It is impressive, to be honest.
I think that I will not exaggerate if I say that the first unit of the Kursk NPP was built and continues to be built, is being put into operation in unique conditions. In the sense that probably there was neither in Russia nor in the world, and God forbid, there will be no other power units that would be built under the conditions of conducting hostilities in the region. I want to say that I am extremely proud of the team that is engaged in the construction of this power unit. I am talking about the builders, and about the operation, and about the operational staff, and about the staff of the operating and standing power plant. Because these people, let's say, in the face of real danger, did not tremble, did not step back, continued to work calmly in their workplaces. And now I can say with confidence that this year we will have a physical launch on the first power unit. We plan to make a power launch by the end of the year. On the second unit, we are also completing the main stage of construction work. Moreover, Rosatom has begun to implement the project for the construction of the third and fourth units of the Kursk NPP. Accordingly, in the Kursk region, Russia's largest nuclear power plant, 4.8 gigawatts, will appear. In this regard, Mr. Putin, it is not a question, but even a request to consider the possibility of partial distribution, taking into account the input power and electricity for the benefit of the introduction and development of new industrial capacities in the Kursk region. Thank you.
I think this is quite logical and should be done. I am confident that the Kursk region, as well as what has been damaged in other border areas, will be restored. And of course, we will pay attention to the development of small and medium-sized businesses and large enterprises. The government is also preparing a program to restore everything that has been lost and damaged in all border areas, including Kursk, Bryansk, and Belgorod. You know that we are helping people who have not yet been able to return to their homes because of the mined territory. Active work is now underway in this area. And of course, we want to create favorable and attractive conditions for economic activity. Of course, we will think about using some of the energy from the Kursk nuclear power plant. In general, you know what is happening now. In the past 10 years, the rate of electricity consumption has increased by about 1.3 times. And over the past year, it has increased by more than 3%. There was a growth of 1.3%, and now it is more than 3%. That is, the rate of electricity consumption in the country has increased more than twice. This is a good indicator. And of course, we will create the necessary conditions for Kursk and all other border areas. One of these conditions is, of course, the reliable supply of electricity. We will definitely look at using energy from the Kursk nuclear power plant. Thank you.
Mr. President, I must add that the workers of our Kursk nuclear power plant not only systematically controlled the operating capacities, not only did they not slow down the construction process, but also provided great assistance to our builders in strengthening the defense capabilities of the Kursk region.
Your specialists worked there despite the fact that the hostilities were nearby. And some of the employees of the Kursk nuclear power plant were at war, even receiving serious injuries. Now I am talking to them. The Kursk nuclear power plant occupies a strong, reliable, and very honorable place in all systems of life support for the Russian state. Thank you very much.
Vladimir Vladimirovich, according to the law of the genre, I must sum up, ask the last question, say the last words. Our official youth leader, the chairman of our great youth council, Maria Zatova. But she is also a native of Sarov, so probably all the stars have come together here. Masha, over to you.
Hello, Vladimir Vladimirovich. Thank you, Alexei Evgenyevich. Vladimir Vladimirovich, I am a third-generation nuclear engineer. I was born in Sarov. My parents worked abroad. But I never dreamed of going into nuclear power. I dreamed of becoming a ballerina.
You look like a ballerina.
Thank you. But in fact, the total age of my family in the industry is 72 years. But my grandfather was the liquidator of the Chernobyl NPP, the father of testers, and this, of course, shifted the focus of my ballet classes to the fact that I came back to Rosatom. But I did not lose my sense of rhythm because for 14 years, I worked at the African NPP and was engaged in the design of nuclear reactors, REDM-200, which is the heart of the very icebreaker on which Nina conquers the ice. And I will honestly say that all the work, both youth work and professional work, really made me think that for nuclear engineers, it was always very important the main idea for which they work. And for 80 years, for the path that we went, we had different stages. And of course, the first main idea for us was for our young scientists, for Karatanov, Liorov, to save the world on this earth. Then the main idea was given to us by Igor Vasilyevich Kurchatov, when he said that the atom should be a worker, not a soldier. Then there were hard times. True, I was very young when there were perestroika years, but our enterprises, well, it was a very, very difficult time for people because there were no orders, no salaries. In Sarov at that time, it was so difficult that sometimes there was no food. And our young parents, my parents, who, in fact, devotion and loyalty to the cause, which is famous, well, it seems to me, for every nuclear engineer in this hall, too, allowed them to stay and preserve this industry. In 2007, you gave us the main new idea, that is to become a global technological leader. And now, in fact, all of us young people are interested, as in your opinion, what is the main idea for the nuclear industry for the next period?
The nuclear industry remains one of the most important areas of our activities. And you are well aware of these areas. Defense, science, education, energy. And the globe is expanding due to adjacent areas where these unique knowledge and technologies can be applied. As I said, you know it better than anyone else. Healthcare and other areas, materials of knowledge, everything is important. You know, it seems to me that the most important achievement is not even a specific industry, although each of them represents a huge value, but the most important achievement is that we have created an industry of knowledge, production, technology, which is one of the foundations of the very existence of the Russian state. At this stage of our development, And it all began 80 years ago. A colossal path has been made in this development, unique results have been achieved, to which I congratulate you and wish you new successes.
Спасибо огромное.